Criteria for preparedness. The 5 spiritual faculties, Indriya, are the criteria for determining a person's spiritual readiness and for indicating the rate of a person's spiritual development, namely faith, saddha, effort, virya, mindfulness, sati, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panya. These criteria are used for the whole of spiritual practice, not just in the context of meditation. The term Indriya refers to the governing factor or principal agent in a specific activity. In this context, it refers to the governing factor in the elimination of unwholesome opposing qualities. Effort, for example, eliminates laziness and leads to a preparedness for spiritual engagement. The scriptural definitions for the 5 faculties can be summarized as follows. 1. Faculty of faith, saddha, sadindriya, as seen in the teaching on the 4 factors of Srimantri Sotapatti-yanga. This faculty essentially refers to faith in the Buddha's awakening, Tathagata Bodhi Saddha. The function of faith is intent, devotion, and determination, adhimokkha. A common definition for the faculty of faith is rational belief and a confidence in the truth and goodness of something one honors and practices. 2. Faculty of effort or energy, viryendriya. This faculty is described in the teaching on the 4 right efforts, sammapadana. In some places it is defined as the effort derived from engaging in the 4 right efforts, or as equivalent to the 4 right efforts. In other places it is defined as the effort to abandon unwholesome qualities and to bring wholesome qualities to completion, as diligence, courage, and perseverance, and as not neglecting wholesome actions. The function of effort is to support and lift up pagaha, the mind. A common definition for the faculty of effort is determination, vitality, and non-discouragement. 3. Faculty of mindfulness, sati satindriya. This faculty is described in the teaching on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, satipatthana. In some places it is defined as the mindfulness derived from engaging in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, or as equivalent to the 4 foundations of mindfulness. In other places it is defined as to be attentive, to be possessed of great mindfulness, and to be able to recall what one has previously done or said, even from a long time in the past. The function of mindfulness is to attend to or oversee upatthana, the mind. A common definition for the faculty of mindfulness is to recollect, to guide the mind in its activities, and to remember that which one has recently done or been engaged in. 4. The faculty of concentration, samadhi, samadindriya. This faculty is described in the teaching on the 4 jhanas. In some places it is defined as equivalent to the 4 jhanas, while in other places it is defined as making relinquishment the object of attention, resulting in concentration and one-pointedness. The function of concentration is to make the mind unwavering and non-distracted, avikepa, A common definition for the faculty of concentration is to have firmly established awareness, to be concentrated on an activity and on an object of attention. 5. The faculty of wisdom, panindriya. This faculty is described in the teaching of the Four Noble Truths. It is defined as a direct knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, to be endowed with noble wisdom which penetrates the truth of arising and ceasing, which eradicates mental defilement and leads to the complete ending of suffering. The function of wisdom is discernment, dasana of the truth. A common definition for the faculty of wisdom is to know according to the truth, to know thoroughly, to know accurately what one is doing, to have insight into the nature of reality. The Buddha confirmed the words of Venerable Sariputta, stating that the 5 spiritual faculties are interconnected. Faith gives rise to effort. Effort reinforces mindfulness. Stable mindfulness leads to concentration. Firm concentration results in wisdom. A profound discernment of the perils of ignorance and craving, which are the cause of the round of rebirth, samsara vata. There arises an appreciation for nibbana, a state free from the darkness of ignorance and agitation of craving, a supreme peace. When a person gains clear insight into the truth, he or she develops great faith or transcends faith. A person's practice thus circles back to the faculty of faith, satindriya, as explained in the Buddha's ending passage. Sariputta. A noble disciple puts forth effort in such a way. When he has put forth effort, he recollects in such a way. When he has recollected, his mind is concentrated in such a way. When his mind is concentrated, he understands clearly in such a way. When he has understood clearly, he goes beyond faith, abhisaddha. Thus, as to these things that previously I had only heard about, they are truly so, as I have now contacted them myself, and realized and penetrated them with wisdom. The Buddha gave a teaching on the 4 different paths of spiritual practice. Some people practice with difficulty and gain insight slowly. Some practice with difficulty but gain insight quickly. Some practice with ease but gain insight slowly, while some practice with ease and gain insight quickly. Here the Buddha explains that the determining factors for the rate of spiritual development are the 5 faculties. If the faculties are weak, insight will come slowly. If they are keen, insight will come quickly. The 5 faculties even determine the different kinds of non-returners. Generally speaking, the potency or deficiency of the 5 faculties is the criterion for measuring the stage of a person's awakening. When these faculties are thoroughly complete, the person is an arahant. If the faculties are less strong than this, the person is a non-returner, a once-returner, a truth devotee, dhamma-nusari, Srimantara, or a faith devotee, Saddha-nusari, Srimantara, respectively. If someone is completely devoid of these faculties, he is classified as an unawakened person outside of the Dhamma Vinaya. To sum up, a difference in the spiritual faculties leads to a difference in spiritual results. A difference in results leads to a difference in kinds of persons. The Patisambhidamagga describes the 5 unwholesome qualities which are eliminated by the 5 faculties. 1. Faith is in charge of devotion or resolve and eliminates a lack of trust. 2. Effort is in charge of supporting or raising up the mind and eliminates laziness. 3. Mindfulness is in charge of guarding or protecting the mind and eliminates heedlessness. 4. Concentration is in charge of stabilizing the mind and eliminates restlessness. 5. Wisdom is in charge of discerning the truth and eliminates ignorance. The Visuddhimagga mentions the importance of bringing the faculties into balance with one another. It stresses that if one of the faculties is overly strong while the others are weak, these other faculties are not capable of fulfilling their functions. For example, if faith is overly ardent, effort is unable to uplift the mind, mindfulness is unable to protect the mind, concentration is unable to firmly establish the mind, and wisdom is unable to discern the truth. It is then necessary to reduce faith by using wisdom to contemplate the nature of reality, or to reflect in a way that does not further intensify faith. In general, the commentaries recommend balancing the faculties in pairs by matching faith with wisdom and concentration with effort. If faith is strong and wisdom weak, a person may gain faith in something that is not worthy of faith. If wisdom is strong but faith weak, a person will incline towards arrogance and will be difficult to train. Similar to an illness which is caused by taking medicine, if concentration is strong and effort weak, indolence will take hold of the mind. Because samadhi shares attributes with indolence, kosajja, if effort is strong, and concentration weak, however, a person will become restless, because virya shares attributes with restlessness, udacha. When these two pairs of faculties are well balanced, Dhamma practice progresses and bears fruit, a principle which is also applied to meditation. The commentaries mention some special circumstances when one solely practices tranquility meditation, even if one's faith is extremely ardent. One may reach attainment, concentration, and concentrative absorption. Strong faith is suitable to the development of concentration. Similarly, in insight meditation, there is no problem if wisdom is overly developed, as this will lead to more comprehensive knowledge. These are special cases, however. If one applies the general principle of balancing the two pairs of faculties, one's practice will bear fruit, for example by reaching attainment, concentration. Mindfulness is an exception to the above principle. The texts state that the more powerful mindfulness is, the better. Increased mindfulness aids other spiritual factors and prevents the mind from falling into either restlessness or indolence. Both uplifting and restraining the mind requires mindfulness. The commentaries cite the Buddha's teachings that for mindfulness to be effective, it must be applied at all times and in all circumstances, and that mindfulness is the shelter and refuge for the mind. Generally speaking, when some of the faculties are overly developed while others are weak, this situation must be rectified and cultivated by cultivating the corresponding enlightenment factors, bojjhanga. If there is too much effort, for example, one can reduce this faculty by cultivating the factor of tranquility, passaddhi. According to the aforementioned teachings, a person must train in and develop all 5 of the spiritual faculties in order to progress in spiritual practice. But as confirmed by the Buddha, there are exceptions to this rule in situations where one develops only the essential faculties. This is especially the case in the practice for complete realization of the truth, which is the highest goal of Buddhism. In this case, only 4 faculties need to be developed by omitting the cultivation of faith. Monks, because he has developed and cultivated 4 faculties, a bhikkhu who has destroyed the tents declares the fruit of arahantship. What 4? The faculty of energy, the faculty of mindfulness, the faculty of concentration, the faculty of wisdom. The next faculty which can be omitted is effort. Monks, because he has developed and cultivated 3 faculties, Venerable Pindola Bharadvaja has declared the fruit of arahantship. What 3? The faculty of mindfulness, the faculty of concentration, and the faculty of wisdom. If necessary, the next faculty which can be omitted is mindfulness. Monks, because he has developed and cultivated 2 faculties, a bhikkhu who has destroyed the tents declares the fruit of arahantship. What 2? Noble wisdom and noble liberation. For his noble wisdom is his faculty of wisdom, his noble liberation is his faculty of concentration. The faculty which is indispensable and which, with adequate power, even without an advanced development of concentration, can lead on its own to the final realization of Buddha Dhamma, is wisdom. Monks, because he has developed and cultivated 1 faculty, a bhikkhu who has destroyed the tents declares the fruit of arahantship. What is that 1 faculty? The faculty of wisdom. The passages describing the practice of only 4, 3, 2, or a single faculty do not imply that the omitted faculties are absent. Although they are inconspicuous, they are all still present to a necessary degree. They are developed in conjunction with the chief factors, but need not be given special prominence, as is seen in this teaching on wisdom. For a noble disciple who possesses wisdom, the faith that follows from it becomes stabilized. The energy, mindfulness, concentration that follows from it becomes stabilized. These exceptional cases apply to specific individuals who are endowed with exceptional abilities. For ordinary people, the aforementioned practice of cultivating all 5 of the faculties evenly is appropriate. The following passages on the importance of the spiritual faculties highlight the role of wisdom in Buddhism. Monks, just as among all animals the lion, the king of beasts, is declared to be their chief, that is, with respect to strength, speed, and courage, so too among the states conducive to enlightenment, bodhipakkhya dhamma, the faculty of wisdom is declared to be their chief, that is, for the attainment of enlightenment, bodha. Monks, just as in a house with a peaked roof, so long as the roof peak has not been set in place, there is as yet no stability of the rafters, there is as yet no steadiness of the rafters, but when the roof peak has been set in place, then there is stability of the rafters, then there is steadiness of the rafters. So too, so long as noble knowledge has not arisen in the noble disciple, there is as yet no stability of the other 4 faculties, no steadiness of the other 4 faculties. But when noble knowledge has arisen in the noble disciple, then there is stability of the other 4 faculties. Then there is steadiness of the other 4 faculties. What 4? The faculty of faith, the faculty of energy, the faculty of mindfulness, the faculty of concentration. In the case of a noble disciple who possesses wisdom, the faith that follows from it becomes stabilized. The energy, mindfulness, concentration that follows from it becomes stabilized. For Wisdom's Task Force. This heading, Wisdom's Task Force, as well as the expression the arena of practice for wisdom, refers to the 7 factors of enlightenment, Bojjhanga. The enlightenment factors are both a support for developing concentration and a way to apply concentration for achieving higher ends, up to and including the highest goal of true knowledge, Vidya, and liberation, Vimutti. The 7 factors are mindfulness, investigation of truth, effort, bliss, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. The Buddha gave a short definition for the enlightenment factors. They are called enlightenment factors because they are conducive to awakening. Based on a literal analysis of the term Bojjhanga, the commentaries translate it as either attributes of an awakened person, attributes of one about to be awakened, or factors of awakening. In principle, the enlightenment factors are adversaries to the 5 hindrances, Nivarana. Most of the time the Buddha mentioned these factors in combination with the hindrances in the capacity of opposing forces. The attributes of the enlightenment factors are opposite to the attributes of the hindrances. Monks, these 7 factors of enlightenment are not obstructions, are not hindrances, are not corruptions of the mind. When developed and cultivated, they lead to the realization of the fruit of true knowledge and liberation. Monks, these 7 factors of enlightenment are makers of vision, makers of knowledge, promoting the growth of wisdom, free from distress, leading towards Nibbana. As mentioned earlier, the hindrances destroy the quality of the mind. The hindrances can be used to measure the level of deterioration of a person's mental health. The enlightenment factors, on the other hand, enhance the quality of the mind and promote mental health. They can be used as a yardstick to evaluate mental health. Definitions for the 7 factors of enlightenment are as follows. 1. Mindfulness, sati, recollection, to recall, reflect, and to hold attention on something with which one is engaged or on a recurred activity. In the context of the enlightenment factors, sati encompasses both the vigilant role of mindfulness, in which attention rests on a specific object of consideration, and the recollection of Dhamma teachings and of necessary activities in order to submit them for inspection by wisdom. 2. Investigation of truth, Dhamma Vichaya, search for truth, to apply wisdom in order to investigate the object focused on by sati, or the Dhamma teaching submitted by sati. For example, to contemplate the essential meaning and value of the object under consideration, to examine and select those things that are beneficial to one's life, that are most suitable to the present circumstances, to discern how the object arises, is sustained and passes away, to understand the object in the context of the 3 characteristics, and to realize the 4 noble truths. 3. Effort, virya, energy, fearlessness, persistence, ardent enthusiasm for that under investigation by wisdom, courage to perform good deeds, strength of heart, fighting spirit, perseverance and hastening to improve, an ability to uplift the mind, an ability to prevent despondency and discouragement, 4. Bliss, piety, delight, joy, contentment, deep pleasure, rapture, exhilaration. 5. Tranquility, passaddhi, mental and physical ease, relaxation, serenity, calm, an absence of stress and agitation. 6. Concentration samadhi, one-pointed focus on an object of attention, steady and consistent attention to an activity, an absence of distraction, vacillation and mental disturbance. 7. Equanimity, upekkha, objectivity, impartiality, to observe equanimously and calmly when the mind is focused on an activity, and when things progress according to plan or according to how they ought to be, or when it is not yet time to strive or be busily engaged, an absence of interference and intrusion. The Buddha mentioned the nourishment ahara and the denourishment anahara of the hindrances and the enlightenment factors. The nourishment which spawns, invigorates and increases the hindrances is a lack of wise reflection, ayoniso manasikara. The denourishment which does not feed or support the hindrances is wise reflection, yoniso manasikara. The nourishment which generates, promotes and perfects the enlightenment factors is wise reflection. The denourishment is a lack of wise reflection. A. Nourishment and denourishment of the 5 hindrances. 1. Sensual desire, a lack of wise reflection regarding images of beauty. Subha nimitta is the nourishment. A wise reflection on images of impurity, asubha nimitta, is the denourishment. 2. Ill will, a lack of wise reflection regarding repulsive images. Patiga nimitta is the nourishment. A wise reflection on the deliverance of mind, ceta vimutti, is the denourishment. 3. Sloth and torpor, a lack of wise reflection regarding sluggishness stemming from overeating, boredom, drowsiness, or despondency is the nourishment. A wise reflection on resourcefulness, improvement, and perseverance is the denourishment. 4. Restlessness and worry, a lack of wise reflection regarding the state or circumstances of mental agitation is the nourishment. A wise reflection on the state of a peaceful mind is the denourishment. 5. Doubt, a lack of wise reflection regarding issues giving rise to doubt is the nourishment. A lack of reflection on wholesome and unwholesome qualities, beneficial and harmful qualities, is the denourishment. B. Nourishment and denourishment of the 7 enlightenment factors. 1. The nourishment for mindfulness is wise reflection on those things acting as a basis for mindfulness. 2. The nourishment for investigation of truth is wise reflection on wholesome and unwholesome qualities, beneficial and harmful qualities. 3. The nourishment for effort is wise reflection on resourcefulness, improvement and perseverance. 4. The nourishment for bliss is wise reflection on those things acting as a basis for bliss. 5. The nourishment for tranquility is wise reflection on physical and mental tranquility. 6. The nourishment for concentration is wise reflection on concentrative signs, samadhi nimitta, and those things that do not make the mind confused. 7. The nourishment for equanimity is wise reflection on those things acting as a basis for equanimity. The denourishment of the enlightenment factors is a lack of wise reflection on those things giving rise to each of these factors, the specific nourishment mentioned above. The things acting as a basis for mindfulness are the objects focused upon by mindfulness. One commentarial passage describes these as the 37 factors of enlightenment, Bodhipakkhya Dhamma, and the 9 supramundane states, Lokuttara Dhamma. From a wider perspective, however, this refers to the practice of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The Visuddhimagga and the Samohavinodani describe 4 more qualities giving rise to mindfulness. Mindfulness and clear comprehension, sati sampajana, avoidance of people with muddled awareness, association with people well guarded by mindfulness, and devotion to the enlightenment factor of mindfulness. The commentaries outline 7 qualities that give rise to investigation. 1. To be an inquirer. 2. To make things clean and bright. 3. To balance the spiritual faculties. 4. To avoid the company of fools. 5. To associate with the wise. 6. To contemplate matters requiring deep insight. 7. To devote oneself to the investigation of truth. The commentaries list 11 qualities that give rise to effort. 1. To reflect on various dangers, example the danger of wickedness, to rouse oneself by recognizing that if one makes no effort, one will encounter such dangers. 2. To discern the blessings of making effort, which leads to exceptional mundane and supramundane results. 3. To consider that this path of practice was traversed by exceptional people, including the Buddha and his great disciples. If we are lazy and slack in our efforts, we will never achieve the goal. 4. To honor alms food by aspiring to generate blessings for the donor. 5. To consider the greatness of the Buddha and to remember that he praised effort. 2. To consider that we should honor his compassion and kindness through devoted effort. 6. To consider that one should act in a way that is worthy of inheriting the magnificent legacy of the true Dhamma. 7. To reduce sloth and torpor through various means, like switching postures and developing the perception of light, aloka sanya. 8. To avoid indolent people. 9. To associate with industrious people. 10. To reflect on the 4 right efforts, samapadana. 11. To devote oneself to making effort. The commentaries describe 11 qualities that give rise to bliss. 1 to 3. To recollect the virtues of the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. 4. To recollect one's own virtuous behaviour, sila. 5. To recollect one's generosity and acts of renunciation. 6. To recollect on divine beings and on the qualities leading to divinity, Deva Dhamma, inherent in oneself. 7. To reflect on the state of peace, i.e. nibbana. 8. To avoid gloomy, depressed people. 9. To associate with cheerful people. 10. To reflect on suttas inspiring devotion. 11. To incline the mind towards bliss. The commentaries describe 7 qualities that give rise to tranquility. 1. To consume fine food. 2. To reside in a comfortable environment. 3. To abide in a comfortable posture. 4. To exert effort in a balanced, measured way. 5. To avoid nervous, stressed people. To avoid nervous, stressful people. 6. To associate with calm, relaxed people. 7. To incline oneself towards tranquility. The commentaries describe 11 qualities that give rise to concentration. 1. To make things clean and bright. 2. To be discerning in regard to mental images, nimitta. 3. To balance the spiritual faculties. 4. To restrain the mind when appropriate. 5. To uplift the mind when appropriate. 6. When the mind is unhappy, to gladden it through faith and a sense of awe, samvega. 7. When the mind is functioning well, to practice equanimity. 8. To avoid people who lack concentration. 9. To associate with people who are endowed with concentration. 10. To reflect on mental liberation, vimokkha. 11. To be devoted to concentration. The commentaries describe the 5 qualities that give rise to equanimity. 1. To be non-discriminatory towards all living beings, both monks and lay people. 2. To be objective about conditioned phenomena, both one's internal physical organs and one's personal belongings. 3. To avoid people who are anxious about and jealously guard things, including other people and personal possessions. 4. To associate with people who are unbiased towards living beings and conditioned phenomena. 5. To incline the mind towards equanimity. The 7 factors of enlightenment are mutually connected, as confirmed by the following teaching by the Buddha. In sum, a monk who has studied with and listened to the Dhamma from a wise, virtuous person who dwells in both physical and mental solitude has an excellent opportunity for realization. 1. When someone reviews, recollects and verifies that Dhamma that he has heard or studied, he develops the enlightenment factor of mindfulness. 2. When he bears this Dhamma in mind, he selects it, analyzes it, examines it, and investigates it. He develops the enlightenment factor of investigation. 3. When he analyzes, examines, and investigates, he exerts effort. The more he analyzes, discerns, clearly understands, and grasps the essential meaning, the greater is his energy and willpower. The more he strives and perseveres, undaunted, he develops the enlightenment factor of energy. 4. When he rouses energy, is diligent and increasingly enthusiastic, there arises bliss independent of sensual desires. He develops the enlightenment factor of bliss. 5. When the mind is blissful, both the mind and body are relaxed and calmed, and there arise mental and physical tranquility. He develops the enlightenment factor of tranquility. 6. When the body is relaxed and at ease, the mind becomes firmly established and concentrated. He develops the enlightenment factor of concentration. 7. When the mind is concentrated on an activity and functions well, it becomes steady and composed. A person simply observes at ease with equanimity. He develops the enlightenment factor of equanimity. As mentioned earlier, the Buddha taught how the 4 foundations of mindfulness nourish the 7 factors of enlightenment. When developed and cultivated, the 4 foundations of mindfulness bring the 7 factors of enlightenment to completion. And when the enlightenment factors are developed and cultivated, they in turn bring true knowledge and liberation to completion. The development of the 4 foundations of mindfulness thus acts as a basis, enabling the group of enlightenment factors to enter the arena of practice. When developing contemplation of the body, feelings, the mind, or the mind objects, one is endowed with unremitting mindfulness. When one is attentive in this way, one applies wisdom to examine, inquire, and analyze according to the principle of Dhamma investigation. From this point, the gradual development of the other enlightenment factors proceeds as described above, eventually leading to true knowledge and liberation. Likewise, when one is listening to the Dhamma, if one firmly establishes the mind, reflects, devotes oneself with all one's heart, and listens carefully, at that time the hindrances will be absent, and the 7 factors of enlightenment may reach completion. The 7 factors of enlightenment can be developed along with other spiritual qualities. For example, they can be developed along with the meditation on breathing, along with the 4 unbounded states of mind, upamana, or along with recollections. Example, the perception of impermanence, the perception of foulness, the contemplation on dispassion, and the contemplation on cessation. The enlightenment factors assist these other qualities to be of supreme benefit, to be conducive to true safety, conducive to a sense of urgency and an ardent striving towards wholesomeness, and conducive to dwelling in peace. The Buddha encouraged the application of the enlightenment factors in meditation practice. These factors help to support the mind when a person is beginning to meditate, and they strengthen concentration. On an occasion, monks, when the mind is despondent, it is untimely to develop the enlightenment factor of tranquility, the enlightenment factor of concentration, and the enlightenment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because the mind is despondent, and it is difficult to rouse it with those things. Suppose a man wants to make a small fire flare up. If he throws wet grass, wet cow dung, and wet timber into it, sprays it with water, and scatters dust over it, would he be able to make that small fire flare up? No, Venerable Sir. So too, on an occasion when the mind is despondent, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation, the enlightenment factor of energy, and the enlightenment factor of bliss. For what reason? Because the mind is despondent, and it is easy to rouse it with those things. Suppose a man wants to make a small fire flare up. If he throws dry grass, dry cow dung, and dry timber into it, blows on it, and does not scatter dust over it, would he be able to make that small fire flare up? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too, on an occasion when the mind is despondent, on an occasion when the mind is restless, it is untimely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation, the enlightenment factor of energy, and the enlightenment factor of bliss. For what reason? Because the mind is restless, and it is difficult to calm it down with those things. Suppose a man wants to extinguish a large bonfire. If he throws dry grass, dry cow dung, and dry timber into it, blows on it, and does not scatter dust over it, would he be able to extinguish that large bonfire? No, Venerable Sir. So too, on an occasion when the mind is restless, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of tranquility, the enlightenment factor of concentration, and the enlightenment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because the mind is restless, and it is easy to calm it down with those things. Suppose a man wants to extinguish a large bonfire. If he throws wet grass, wet cow dung, and wet timber into it, sprays it with water, and scatters dust over it, would he be able to extinguish that large bonfire? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too, on an occasion when the mind is restless, but mindfulness, I say, is always useful. In the Pali Canon, the 7 factors of enlightenment are described in several ways as the effort to cultivate wholesome states, bhavana padana, as the pinnacle of all forms of effort, as the strength of spiritual development, bhavana bala, as the means to eliminate the taints by way of spiritual development, as karma that is neither black nor white, leading to the end of karma, as conditions of prosperity, aparihaniya dhamma, leading solely to growth and not to decline, and as the path leading to the unconditioned nibbana, similarly to the other qualities contributing to enlightenment, bodhipakkhya dhamma.